Hello, I'm Rachel, teacher, healer and mystic. Welcome to the first in the series of my Empowered Empath Training. What I want to do today is to just let you know and recap why I'm doing this and why I love this stuff. And also to let you know my top tips for looking for an empath in yourself or in people around you. Okay. The idea is that this is going to build weekly so that you've got something to build on, tools, etc., etc., etc. And what I'll do is at the end, if you've got any questions or any thoughts, I'll either answer them today or I'll build that into the work that I'm going to do. I can't tell you if it's going to be 12 weeks, 10 weeks. It is going to be what it is. And the idea is that these are snippets. So the reason why I'm doing this is because this all comes from personal experience and lived realness. I am an empath, a very, very sensitive empath. And I've struggled my whole life to sit in my sensitivity. And I've gone from being quite an inward child, growing in confidence over the years, to realizing that I needed to be out there and do what I do with other people, and feeling other people's stuff, whether it's nice or not, isn't always fun. When you put yourself on a platform, there's more people looking at you and there's more stuff to feel. So it's been a journey of empowerment. And this is the time of the empath. This is the time for the world to go, okay, this sensitivity, we need this place of understanding, this place of balance, this ability to voice it and speak it when we need to. All of this is really, really important. So that's why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because it resonates with me. I love you guys and I want you guys to be seen and heard more. And what I also want is for the world to do what it needs to do and to have more of us being seen and heard in it rather than fading away in the background. Because obviously we live in a society which tends to monetarily reward the opposite of empathy and niceness, which is just bizarre in mine and probably many of your opinions. So what I want to touch on today is what an empath is, how you might be able to class yourself as an energy sensitive, and just identifying yourself sometimes makes a massive deal of difference. Just so what I'd really love to know is if any of the bits and pieces that I talk about resonate with you, if this clicks with you, and if you go, oh my God, like I'd always thought I was an empath, but this makes total sense. So empath is somebody that comes in on the heart vibration. And the heart is the center of our chakra system. It's the center of our energetic system. It is both a spiritual and a human energy center. Okay, so those of you that are into your energetic study, it's a part of both systems because it is centered around love. So we are all love-based beings. We tend to see the best in people. People go, they're assholes. I can see that they've had a tough life. I can see where their bitterness might come from. I know their backstory. I can feel their backstory. And actually, they might be a bit odd and a bit weird, and that's okay. I don't mind oddness and weirdness either. So that ability to see the positive in others and that ability to actually be really accepting of other people's darkness as well and heaviness. Okay. An empath is somebody who feels other people's stuff. We're all capable of coming in the empath vibration, but many of us have that squashed out of us as kids. So it might be that you walk into a building and you have a weird feeling in the building because there's some spirit in there that shouldn't be. And this is how my first clue around my the clairs and my spiritual development was feeling. So you might walk into a building and get a feeling. You might walk into a room and know that there's been an argument or people have been talking. You might also know that something's going on with a friend just through reading the text message, and it might be the same text message from one day to the other. It feels different. And we're people who feel rather than think. So you might get a feeling about something. Your gut instinct might be quite strong as well, because your gut instinct comes in your tummy and your heart's right next to it. So those two things quite often work together. Most of us tend to have overcharged and over open heart chakras, which means that you can kind of get thrown by being in crowded places. So you might have difficulty with crowded places, with large crowds. You might be an introvert. You might have ended up being an introvert to manage your energy. You may even be agoraphobic because the thought of going out and feeling everything that's out there is just too much. Okay, so those all might be things that are going on with you. You also may be someone who is, as a child, was quite inward and quiet, hiding around the back of your parents' legs, that type of a thing. Strong connection to animals, because animals coming on the feeling vibration. So you might have found that you had a strong connection to animals. You still may have that connection, and you might find that your best mates are your cats and your dogs and your whatever else fills your home. You are somebody who maybe has very strong feelings about people sometimes, that you can really read their energy, because you can pick up on what they're feeling. Most empaths tend to pick up on that stuff, but still feel into their backstory. So there's kind of two levels of empaths. There's empaths who are energy sensitive and who are sensitive to energy. And then there's empaths whose heart chakra is really, really quite open. And it's in fact too open, it's an imbalance. And they end up feeling other people's feelings and often taking them on board. So you might be somebody who gets drained very easily. You might suffer from ME. You might suffer from energy wasting condition. You might have friends who've had maybe emotional issues, and you end up then thinking, oh, I'm depressed, I've got anxiety, because you're processing their stuff for them. You might find that you get over involved in other people's problems. And you might have got to the stage where you're building boundaries and think, I don't want no more dramas. I don't want no more drama queens in my life. I can't deal with them. What often happens with empaths is that everything gets too much, and you quite often have to retreat into yourself. So you're somebody who enjoys spending time by yourself. I don't just like spending time, but I enjoy my own company. Doesn't mean you don't like people. It might just mean that you enjoy spending time by yourself because you haven't got to put up with anybody else's rubbish. Being out and about, you might find that exhausting. You might feel icky coming off the bus, or when you've been in a busy place. The supermarket was always a killer for me, especially around PM tea time. I remember literally hiding in the toilet, which wasn't particularly fun, but it was better than being out there. And remember that empaths will pick up and process other people's anger as well as other people's sadness. So you might have certain friends that you find very draining energetically. And that comes often quite with when you've got the passive and dominant personalities. Empaths quite often fall into what humans in survival mode might call passive or dominant patterns of sort of basic personality types. The point is that we're taking you out of passiveness and putting you in the middle, where you're an empowered empath who can speak their mind and can be direct. You might have difficulty saying what you need to say because you know that the person you're going to say it to is going to be upset by what you're going to say, because you've felt it before and you feel it again. And you might find that you have real difficulties with toxic relationships where the dynamics are really skewed in favor of somebody else. Because you're going to hurt that person's feelings if you do see something simple, say, no, I can't meet you for a coffee, that type of thing, because you're going to feel it. And those patterns often happen in childhood, and then they build up for life. So you struggle then in life to say no to people as a result of that learnt behaviour in childhood. An empowered empath can say no. Might feel bad when they first start doing it, but within time you can sort of build up boundaries. Healthy boundaries is a really important thing. Many empaths build up unhealthy boundaries where they cut everyone out, and they can sometimes be quite harsh. And we end up coming across as being quite negative, even when we're not. It's just that we've got such firm shields, particularly as we get older. Bitterness is often something that comes if you don't empower yourself. So the dangers of not empowering yourself as an empath is that you become what you don't want, which is kind of bitter about the world and kind of jaded by the world, and you end up throwing everyone in the same pot rather than seeing that joy which you used to see, because you've run out of energy to feel joy. You've just giving from an empty bucket because there's so much pain in the world, and that's what you're tuned into. So an empowered empath tunes into joy rather than pain. You can still read the pain and feel the pain, but I'll show you coping techniques and coping mechanisms for that. You will be able to watch a TV show and feel it and cry, and you can watch a documentary about something that's happened from our history and feel it, and process, go try to process some of that stuff. When you're processing for people that have passed, and I'm picking up on the points Sabina's just made about how we process things, it's very different to trying to process things for other people. We used to be the anchors for the fifth dimension, or energy which is coming into the universe. As human beings, we can easily, with empowerment, move between the first and seventh dimensions. We're the only beings within the universe who've got that capability. So we're pretty awesome beings in terms of the universe. But many of us were only functioning between the first and the fourth dimensions for a whole host of reasons. Empaths are those that come in on a vibration of love and naturally empowering, anchoring in this fifth dimensional energy. And what we would normally do is to maybe cry or weep or get depressed for several months and pull ourselves out of it. And that's how we'd process other people's stuff. We'd feel the depression for them. I don't know if you've ever had that, but you're with a friend who won't cry and you end up crying for them, or even a stranger, and you cry for them. They're like, they can't cry, and you cry for them. So you're literally processing the emotions out on the other side. And our natural ways of processing things are going through depressed spells, going through down periods, anger, screaming, shouting. So you might find that your moods fluctuate. So sometimes people with bipolar very much are on the empath vibration, crying, all of that stuff, all of those natural things that our body uses to process energy is how we process it. It's a lot harder to do it for another human being. If you've got another human being in front of you who's maybe struggling to process their emotions but wants to move through those emotions, it's a little bit easier. Like, you can help them process it and everyone can move forward. What we often do is attract those cycles of other people who don't want to deal with their own crap, and they want you to continuously deal with it. And you end up trying to help them through things, feeling their pain, feeling their emotion, and you can't come through the other side with them because they won't process it. So you can only process for other people what they are happy to process. If you've got people around you who aren't happy to face certain sides of what's going on with them, who can't continually reject stuff, who don't want to hear another side to things, those people are gonna, you're not going to be able to help them. You can't process it for them or help them process it. Dead people, it's a little bit different. They tend to have a little bit more perspective, not always. They tend to have a little bit more perspective and understanding, and have kind of been through some of the debrief on the other side where they know that they need to work through some stuff. So often if you find yourself sat there crying at documentaries, crying at TV shows of historical things, you're processing the pain that wasn't processed at that time. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is in Ireland with the Magdalene laundries, and there are copious crimes that the Catholic Church has committed all over the world, and this is something that is close to my heart because I'm second generation Irish and I was raised Catholic. I'm retired from Catholicism now. If you can do that, you're allowed to leave the club. So what would happen is that I would read the stories, think about everything that's happened, and that would really upset me, and that I would cry about that. And that's okay. I'm really accepting of the fact that I'm somebody who cries. I'm okay with that. Cry your eyes out. Crying's healthy. So it helps you process the emotions. So I would process that historically for other people, because, people at the time were more relying on maybe physically surviving than worrying about, not necessarily worrying, than having the time to mourn a death of a baby or the loss of a baby where they've been forced to give up a child. So you might find that you do that. So all empaths are natural healers, okay? If as an empath you haven't learned how to manage your energy, or you haven't learned to heal. Those are the two things that I want you to research, to go away, and it's something that I will cover at some point, but research chakras, research energy systems, research healing. I'm a Reiki healer and a crystal healer. That's what I teach other people to do. Go out and find a face-to-face course where somebody's going to be able to talk to you and teach you, and you can say, I think I'm an empath. Try and look for another empath. I was raised with people who some were empaths, some weren't. And when you're taught to think and know, and to hear and listen, when what your first instinct is to feel. And I had to learn in a very different way before coming back to what was natural to me, because I had to jump over that connection before realizing that that was my connection. So yeah, that would be my first point of call for all of you. I will, if any of that resonates, I'm just going to check my notes and double check if there's anything else in here. Physical manifestation of your emotional illnesses, headaches, heartaches, tummy aches, overcautious with your words, prefer the company of children, not just animals. Oh, do you find yourself giving random advice to random people in toilets? Ladies, you will know exactly what I mean by going to the ladies' toilets. There was always somebody crying in a nightclub when we were young enough to be socially accepted within them. And there was always somebody crying, or somebody on the bus, and they would tell you a life story because you're processing and helping them process it. They've probably got nobody else to talk to about it, or somebody who would listen. And you're somebody who will listen and be understanding and non-judgmental. People can feel that. It's likely that the person doing that with you is another empath or energy sensitive at least, and they can feel that. So you'll probably find random conversations of people giving you their life stories. Justice is a really important thing. Doesn't necessarily mean we deal with it angrily. We might do, but justice is a really, really important thing for empaths, and making sure that everything is fair and right and just. Yeah, so that's everything that I've got on my notes. So if you think that you fall into that, absolutely, I'll be coming back over the next few weeks with lots of different tips. So next time, probably next month, I'll go through protecting but not hiding your energy, how to bolster your energy, and going through the stages of doing that. I'm also going to be visiting themes of boundary building in a healthy way. And I'll talk about energy at different points and bits and pieces like that. So that's kind of like my first lesson, which is, are you an empath? Yes. If you are, start getting to understand and to know energy. You would have been the people who, the priestess or the priest or the wise woman would have had it in for a lesson once a week when you were younger, because you probably would have gone and worked in the holy places and the temples, or with the witch and the herbalist. That would have, it would have been seen. And it's not anymore, because it's not valued, because you can't typically, and this is something else I probably will talk about at some point, make money from our talents. And I think society's changing in what we actually place value on. And we're placing value on emotional strength and mentorship, and being able to look at the world from a different perspective. You're welcome, Sabina. You're welcome, Jane. Yes, yes, absolutely. Thanks, Anishka. So I'll do a lesson in a month. If there's anything, if you're watching this on catch up or watching this now, there's anything specific you'd like me to cover coming up, pop it in the comments. And that's for all my channels. So I'll share this onto IGTV and I'll share this onto YouTube. Let me know, because I will build that stuff in as we go on. So there's something for you to kind of like turn to. Right, I'm going to make a move.